Hello everyone, welcome back to another video and my Ficus Ginseng you can see right here. The plan for today with this little Ficus Ginseng is actually to repot it into its first bonsai pot. Right now it is still basically in this little plastic pot I have bought it in with a little cover pot of course. And I think as it is spring right now, the temperatures are rising, it is the perfect time, even though I keep this indoors, to repot it. As I keep it indoors, actually it would probably be fine to repot it all year around. However, I still like to stick to a certain schedule, and normally spring is the time for me when I do repot most of my tropical trees as well. So definitely a good time to get into a task like this. And I would say let's start right away with getting it out of its previous, soon to be previous little plastic pot here. So I'm just loosening up the soil a bit. And we will have a small look at the roots, which expected a bit more, so I don't see that many feeder roots, to be honest. Let's see if we dig a bit deeper into this mass, what we can actually see. So I do normally start from the top to just loosen up the soil. Probably in the beginning we can break quite a lot off simply by using the hands. And then once we get a bit closer and deeper into all of this, then we will move on with our chopstick here that normally is quite good to remove soil without damaging the roots too much. So definitely always a good choice to use something like a chopstick or a little rake to just rake out all the excess soil from around the roots. It is a very dense soil, and that is always the problem with those tropical trees that you can buy that have been commercially grown, because it's great for transportation for them. So they come of course from tropical places normally where they're grown. So they put them in very dense soil because it makes it easier to transport them, because it holds moisture for way longer. And this way the tree does not simply die on the way to, for example, Europe, Northern America, more temperate climates where we keep them as indoor trees. And that's why they put it in this dense soil. But for the tree itself, it is definitely not the right soil, here at least. In hotter climates, it could make sense also to have it in soil like this if you don't want to water it like multiple times a day. But of course here, where they don't dry out that fast anyway, you just have an increased risk of root rot. So I'm cleaning out the soil still with my hands, because it actually is coming off quite easily today, which I'm surprised of. But as I haven't watered this tree in the last couple of days, it doesn't cling to the roots as much then. So that is definitely a great benefit. So if you plan on repotting a tree, maybe don't do it right after watering, because it will be definitely more difficult, because of course the wet soil simply clings to the tree much more. I do see there's not much root mass to work with, so I have experienced that already before on a Ficus Ginseng I have repotted last year, I think. And also that one did not have much soil on it. I'm moving all this excess soil a bit out of the way here, because it is nevertheless quite a lot of soil for such a tiny tree. I won't reuse this soil because, as I said, it is very dense. It's simply not fitting for a tree like this. The risk of root rot is just too high for me with this soil, so I'm trying to remove it as best as possible right here. Maybe I even give it a rinse in case that is needed before actually repotting it. But as it is so dry, I think we can really shake off most of the soil just like this. So it shouldn't clog also in the future the root mass. Here I still see a bit that we can clean off, but not too much. I'm quite happy with how it comes off, so it's really good. The roots themselves, though there is not that many roots, they seem very healthy. They have a nice creamy color. That's always a good sign normally. Some have died back. So there's some final specks of soil still on here that we need to remove, and then we can already take a closer look at the root system and how we're gonna continue with this in the future. So just here really on top. But I would say we have freed this tree quite nicely from the soil before, so we can definitely then move to a better soil in the future. So again, once more, I move the soil a bit out of the way to have enough space to work also here in the future in a second. You can see here on this root part, we do have some feeder roots. So here I wouldn't go in too much. It's also actually, I quite like the line where it is. It's not going down too deeply. On this other side, we have this very bulbous root here and a tinier side root here. And I think as we have some feeder roots on this very tiny side root, we can actually take back this long feeder root that of course would also limit us in how deep we can pot this tree in a new pot. So let me just get some garden shears and let me get as close as possible up here, and we take out this lower part of the root. You can see some sap forming here as is usual for ficus. And other than that, here we have a little root on top here. I would leave that on because I do like actually those fine aerial roots that have formed on the tree previously. Also like this one here, so keep these ones on. And we might shorten some of those roots still a bit, but not too much as we don't have that much root mass on it. I don't want to stress it too much. I would say in this case, I wouldn't work too much on the roots simply because there is not that much root mass. Otherwise, of course, if you have more root to work with, you can still shorten it, trying to really create a nice pad. But I think this will actually only be the case in the next season or the next time when we repot this in probably, I would say 3 years from now. Hopefully then we can already work a bit more on the roots. When we now have it in better soil that is more fitting, of course, that should also encourage root growth, and then in the future we can work more on the roots. But for now, I would say we already move on to the pot we're going to put it in. So simply a glazed pot. As you can see here, I put in some wire to actually stabilize the tree then, and also to show you the mixture I'm going to use today, which is mainly anorganic. So it's mainly clay pebbles, a bit of pumice, and I think a bit of bark is also in there. So some organic matter as well. I know you could probably also go without the organic matter as well and switch it out with akadama. However, I have gone quite nicely with this mixture on previous trees, so for now I'm sticking to it. However, maybe I will switch to fully anorganic soil in the future as well. I will put a little ground spot in here. Oh, by the way, actually I see I have some stones actually also in here. Some of them I always like to keep in them because it simply makes the whole thing still in general more airy still, but at this point here maybe it was a bit too many, so I'm trying to rather have the clay pebbles in and the pumice, but less of those little stones that I've also put in the soil mixture previously. So then of course the big question is, how do we position this tree and where do we see the front and where do we see the back? I will definitely go with this triangular shape as either the front or the back. However, which one will be the front or the back is still up for discussion. However, I do think if I look at it this way or this way, I don't like the graft. It's very prominent on this side. I also don't like this part here as much. I like it way more from the back here. So I think I will rather see this as the front. I do quite like that. And the height, I think I also do like this. So I would already try to tie in the tree. And of course, with a tree like that has a triangular shape like this, it is quite easy to tie it in by simply on both sides attaching wire to it, trying to really wrap it around nice and tight to really make it stable. And here we actually have a little side root that we can work it through if I can find the right spot. A bit further down here and going through here nicely, tying in the tree. I will keep it indoors anyway, so I'm not too worried that it will be blown off by wind of one of my windowsills, so shouldn't be a problem. But just to give it a bit of additional hold in the new pot, we see that the roots are nice and evenly spread out, and then we go around filling up all the spaces here. I always like to start from one side, then just move around the tree, filling up the pot with soil wherever I still see the need. Also a bit on this side. Moving along here. And of course, what we still have to do is make sure that all the little pockets that might have formed here where the soil hasn't reached yet fully the tree, that we also get in there and really, really work in this new soil. As it is quite coarse and quite big pieces of soil, of matter, that definitely makes sense to still go a bit further in here. So for now I'm just seeing that we fill it out quite nicely. I think I will leave this part here open to create like a little cave almost here. Nice structure that I quite like the look of. And then we simply, around where we previously have seen the roots, we work in the soil, making sure it really fills out all the pieces and all the nooks and crannies in this pot. And you always get a feeling if there's still pockets, because you can really see the soil going further down and leaving like a little area here where you have previously still had soil that is now moving further down, and you can definitely see how it works its way around the tree this way. So this is definitely something you should do. And of course, once we're done here, what I will do is give it a very, very severe watering, so making sure it's really completely soaked in water to really, again, make sure the soil can settle around the tree. So as we have worked in soil now, of course, we can still go around once more and fill out all those spaces that have now opened up again. And also here in the back a bit. And then we look at the final tree. Also looking on it this way. I do see that, of course, this might be moving a bit too far in the front, so it's really in the front view of somebody looking at the tree. I might remove this in total in the future, but as we have worked on the roots quite considerably now, I'm not going to work on the foliage at all. However, I am happy that I have repotted it. I think the tree will fare way better in a new pot with definitely better fitting soil than before. You can see this is basically mainly coco coir and fully organic soil, so there was not even pumice or anything in it. So way too dense, way too high risk of it developing root rot, especially after this growth season when it gets cooler again. So great time here in spring now to repot this one. If you have any questions about Ficus Ginseng, about how to repot it, or about repotting in general, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will get to answer them as soon as I see them. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did so, feel free to leave a like. And if you enjoyed this channel, of course, also feel free to subscribe to it. And hopefully then I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.